With me is Jen Crompton, a senior strategist here at Acadian and a resident expert on all things Facebook Live. Also with us is Jim Miller, president of Collaborative Marketing Solutions. Many thanks to Jim and his team at Farmer Leaders for hosting our presentation today. The title of our presentation is Real-Time Social, Reaching Your Patients and HCPs Using Live Streaming. Our agenda over the next 30 minutes is pretty simple. We'll spend a few minutes giving you an overview of Facebook Live, looking at its brief and exciting history and some impressive user stats. Then we'll look at some basic rules for doing a Facebook Live broadcast. The bulk of the presentation will be looking at various case studies, and then Jen is going to wrap up and talk about specific issues for using Facebook Live within healthcare. We try to keep these sessions moving at a pretty fast pace so we can have time for Q&A at the end. Just before we dive in, a quick overview about Acadian. Acadian is a digital marketing agency focused on serving life sciences, med device, and biotech companies here in the U.S. as well as around the world. We're speaking to you today from our beautiful headquarters in Malvern, Pennsylvania, just outside of Philadelphia. And as you can see here on the screen, we have about 200 employees and focus especially on brand launch across a wide range of different therapeutic categories, reaching both patients and HCPs. So with that, let's get started. As I mentioned, our agenda today is pretty simple. You can see it there. And we'll dive in. So Facebook Live was launched this past April, and highlighted on the left is Mark Zuckerberg's vision for the product, and as you can see, it's a compelling one. Facebook Live is like having a TV camera in your pocket. Anyone with a phone now has the power to broadcast to anyone in the world. When you interact live, you feel connected in a more personal way. Now, what's interesting about this announcement is that when Mark Zuckerberg talks about reaching anyone in the world, he really means it. At last count, Facebook had 1.8 billion users and is growing at 17% a year. So they're still seeing tremendous growth. And it means by next year, Facebook Live Network will have a potential audience of more than 2 billion people. And it streams everywhere in the world except China, North Korea, and Iran, where Facebook access is denied. Now, if you haven't had a chance, I'd recommend taking a look at a very cool page that Facebook publishes called Live Map. This page visually depicts all of the live events occurring as well as showing the number of views and their location. And what's really cool about this is when there's a nationally covered event like Hurricane Matthew, which you see here on the screen, viewers can start watching from all over the country, and then mixed in with these national news feeds, you can find live broadcasts from thousands of other regular Facebook users. So if you haven't checked that out, it's pretty cool. Now, because Facebook Live is under a year old, there are not a lot of trending statistics, but this infographic does a nice job of summarizing some of the highlights so far. Some stats to call your attention to: Facebook has an average of 8 billion daily video views. That's B with a billion. Videos have 135% greater organic reach compared to posts with just photos. So video in general does better on Facebook. And in terms of live events, people spend 3 times longer watching Facebook Live videos compared to those that are no longer live. So the live aspect of Facebook Live really does drive engagement. Now, one of the cooler things about Facebook Live right now is that it's still in its infancy, which means that people are still exploring all the possible uses and topics. And this set of topics from Facebook itself, you can see all the different possibilities: news, demos, interviews, sporting events, behind the scenes. And the fact of the matter is that we've just started to scratch the surface of how this live broadcast capability can be used. So before we look at some case studies, let's just go over some of the basics for a successful Facebook Live broadcast. You want to tell people when you're broadcasting, so that's important. And make sure you have a strong connection as you broadcast, and then write a catchy description before going live. That's just good marketing for your event. And ask viewers to subscribe to your live notifications so they can keep informed about your event. And then as the event is going, say hello to commenters by name and respond to their comments in live time. So that's just a nice user technique. broadcast for longer periods of time to reach more people. So if you have the luxury of staying on the air for longer stretches of time, go ahead and do that. Have a closing line at the end to signal the end of the broadcast, and then get creative. As we saw, there's lots of different ways to do this, and try to go live often. So what we want to do now is go through some examples. First one is from the Tough Mudder event, and this one went live during one of the races. This is one of those crazy races where people climb up hills and such, and the live broadcast showed what the event is like, and they interviewed participants, and they reiterated the location for latecomers. So as the live stream was going, they kept mentioning, we're here live at Tough Mudder. So this was a really good choice for Tough Mudder, since many people who have never been to a race may not exactly understand what happens during the race. And do they really run under live electric wires, for example? And the answer is yes, they do, but they did not show that on the Facebook Live. I think that was probably a wise decision. Don't show your customers being electrocuted during your Facebook Live event. Okay. Cue the laugh track. Yes. The next example from Benefits is from Benefits Cosmetics. They ran a weekly Facebook Live event for their products. They branded the weekly event Tipsy Tricks, and the host went through a wide range of beauty products. And then they asked questions to the audience in real time to which products to spot next. So they really took advantage of that live capability and engaged the audience to say, all right, now we want to look at this product next. Now this next example comes from the world of print journalism, and that you might not think that Facebook Live would apply here, but this is a really nice example of using Facebook to go behind the scenes. So Italian print magazine Grazia hosted an event with their editorial board and allowed viewers to see how an issue was edited and brought to life. And then they even created a hashtag, hashtag Grazia FB, to field questions during the session. And one of the senior editors explained the impact. The Grazia audience aren't just readers, they're brand, and their views and opinions shape our content and really matter. And now with Facebook Live, they can participate with us in real time. So this idea of participating with your customers is something to really keep in mind as you consider Facebook Live. Now this next one is from BuzzFeed. They hosted a live dance competition, and team members competed with dance moves, and the audience rated them. And then the host spoke with the dancers and allowed viewers to get to know the BuzzFeed team. And the funnest part was audience members could, in real time, request dance moves of the contestants. So this was a pretty fun one. And obviously the dance idea may not be appropriate for every corporate culture, but the idea of having some fun and sharing your culture on Facebook Live, we think is a good one. We will not be dancing during this webinar. So speaking of sharing culture, a number of museums and cultural groups have been using Facebook Live, and this example is from the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And you can see here they use live streams to introduce various new exhibits and events. This one is from Pergamon and the Hellenistic Kingdoms of the Ancient World, and was previewed by one of the exhibit curators, and the broadcast went live 4 days before the exhibition. And when you see that title, you wouldn't necessarily think it's going to be popular, but they actually had 50,000 views and 1,200 shares about this event. And just as a little side note, you can see on the screen there, be careful with your camera work. They kind of chopped off the speakers' heads a little bit. So that is something you want to pay attention to as you do these live events, is make sure you kind of set the shot ahead of time so you're not going to cut people off. And last but not least, before we get into some of the healthcare conversation, this is one from WWE, and sporting events are one of the prime adopters of live stream technologies. And this feed of Shane McMahon delivering an elbow has had more than 3 million views. So, certainly if you have an exciting event in healthcare, this might be something like a conference or some kind of product launch. You can definitely use Facebook Live to kind of leverage the excitement of being on site at a location. So hopefully those examples give you a sense of the range and possibilities of what's happening in various industries with Facebook Live. And now what we want to do is look at how Facebook Live is being used in healthcare. And I'm going to turn things over to the wise and wonderful Jen Crompton. And Jen, you can take it away. Thanks, Jen.
Thanks, Jim. All right, so we recently hosted a Facebook Live event with a pharmaceutical company. We focused on their audience, and it was an unbranded effort. And we decided to use Facebook Live because we wanted to engage and educate. So the first thing that we did when we decided that this might be the right place for us was to figure out what our goal was. So we had to set our clear goals and expectations and figure out exactly what we wanted to accomplish through the Facebook Live event. We knew that the people that were already engaging with our Facebook page were interested in learning a little bit more about the disease. It's a rare disease. People who are diagnosed have a lot of questions about it. So we thought that this could be a great opportunity to provide a little bit more education, but also to create that two-way communication platform where we could get questions and answer them directly in real time. So as I said, the first part of it, set some clear goals and expectations, understand exactly why you want to get there and what you want to do. And those goals are going to lead you into your topic choice and your format. So when you get to creating that topic, think about it as what's a topic that's going to spark great conversation. This is a two-way communication platform. You don't want to just be speaking to your audience. You want them to be speaking back, or you want them to be interacting with you in one way or another. They can comment or they can react and use the emojis, but you want them to be involved. So you can think about a few different topics, things that Jim already brought up. He said, big overarching buckets of content could fall under, hot topics. Are there things that are happening in the industry that you think your audience wants to know more about? Breaking news. Are there, topics that have just happened, things that people have questions about that you can address? You could also create a Q&A format. So it could be that it's one moderator who's Facebook live streaming and they're getting the questions from the audience and they're able to address them, and you can talk back and forth, or you can have an interview. So this could be an interview format where you have two people sitting next to each other involved in a conversation where they're answering some questions that they've already created, and then also getting some of the questions from the audience via the comments. That was actually the format that we chose for our event. It was an interview, so it was someone from the company and then also a subject matter expert who was talking a little bit more about the questions and providing education based on content that we had collected from the Facebook page in the past. So we knew some of the frequently asked questions, we were addressing them, and we had some responses that were already created. What we also did was we had the commenters submitting questions, and then we were able to address them in real time. I'll get into a little bit more of that in a few minutes. The other two options, you can do a demonstration. So do you need to show a disease? Do you need to show something visual? Or behind the scenes. So as Jim mentioned, behind the scenes they always lend themselves to being great content. So if there's something that your audience wants to know more about and you can take them behind the scenes to see how it's made or how you do the research, then that's a great topic as well. If you have a Facebook Live event, one of the biggest things that people don't do is promote it enough. So before it used to be that you would have a Facebook event and you would just go live and everyone that liked your page would get a notification. Now you actually can schedule these events in advance, and you can create a process that you set it up and then you can ask people to opt in to receive the notifications. This means that your audience will get a notification as soon as you go live, and they'll also get notifications knowing that the event is coming up soon. There's a waiting room that will be created. So once your event starts to go live, a few minutes before it goes live, there's a waiting room where people can gather and they can wait for the event to happen. So if you promote it, use all your different outlets, use any way that you communicate with this audience, post it on your Facebook, see if you can get partners to post it. You can send it via email, you can have people talk about it. So it all depends, again, on who your audience is, what your goal of that conversation is going to be, but be sure that you promote it and get it out there so you'll have an audience that will be engaged with you and be watching you. The next part of that is the social media control center. So I previously previously mentioned that we had commenters who were submitting questions to our subject matter expert. We had to create a social media control center which consisted of about 4 or 5 people. The 4 or 5 people were there doing different things. So we had one person who was monitoring the conversation, who was taking a look at all the comments that were coming through. The second person who was pushing through the comments and questions that the subject matter expert was going to address. So not all comments are created equal. Some are better than others. So we had to kind of sift through them to see which ones were going to be of most value to the greatest number of people within the audience. And we were able to pass them through, have the interviewer ask that question, and answer it in real time. A few of the comments that were posted we were unable to answer in real time, so they just required a response. So we had someone who was copy and pasting responses or creating responses to those comments that wouldn't be answered live on air. This is a great strategy because you want to make sure that everyone feels noticed and that everyone has an opportunity to voice their opinion. So if you're trying to create a two-way conversation, you want to make sure that you don't leave anyone out. So our social media control center, for you, it could be 1 person, it could be 3 people. You just really have to decide exactly how you want to execute the event. You know, if you need someone who is listening in on the conversation to make sure that all the comments are answered. And again, you have someone else who's actually typing in some answers. It could be, we ended up having about 5 people in total, each person with their own responsibility, but you could do it in less. So again, it depends on who your audience is, what the format of your event is going to be, and how many people you really need to be paying attention. And that leads to the next thing, which is having pre-approved responses ready to go. When we're working in a regulated industry, we want to consider the things that we can't say, and we want to make sure that everything that we do is compliant. So in addition to maybe having someone be a part of your social media control center who you can pass ideas through and make sure that they're approved before you post comments or you respond, having some ready responses will help you be prepared in case you get some questions that you know you won't be able to answer. For us, we had a list of maybe 20 answers and 20 questions that we know were asked often. So when that question would come up in a comment, we would be able to copy paste and customize as needed and send that response out. So that way that comment didn't go without a response. So having these questions are great. Kind of keep them in your pocket in case you need them, and then be able to quickly adjust. If there's something that you're not sure of, make sure that you have someone in the room that can help you with compliance and not get you into trouble. So just to kind of go back, when we're talking about putting together your Facebook Live event, this is what you want to do. You want to set your clear goals, make sure that they're aligned to your brand needs. So what do you want this to accomplish? Use the live channel to spark great conversations. So pick a great topic, make sure that it's conversational. So you want to make sure that it's something that people want to talk about. Market and promote the event. So make sure that people know that it's going to happen and get them to come and interact. Tracking your metrics. So make sure that you're tracking everything and you know what's happening. Make sure you have that control center. And then the last part of that is anticipating questions, making sure that you have some responses already ready in case you need to use them.
Thanks, Jen. That was a great overview of how to use Facebook Live in a regulated environment. And I think some of those tips, hopefully for the people out in the audience, were really helpful of how to actually execute Facebook Live in healthcare and how to reach out to patients and even HCPs. What we want to do now, as promised, we try to keep this fast. We have some time now for questions, so please go ahead and type in some questions. Here's some ones. If you want to type in some answers to kind of get to Jen's point, we want to have some conversation with you.
Sure.
So hopefully this will generate some questions. Okay, we have one from Cindy Durfee out in Santa Clara. She wants to know, what are the potential risks when hosting a Facebook Live event, especially in a regulatory environment?
Yeah, so you want to think about the fact that if it's a live event, anything can happen. So you can get questions, you can get comments, things that might be inappropriate, but as long as you can anticipate some of these things, you can be ready for them. So for instance, if someone does post something that is inappropriate, you can quickly delete it. So that's part of your social media control center. Your people who are monitoring the conversation, they can delete it. You can have technical issues too. So Jim mentioned in the very beginning, you want to make sure that you have a really strong connection. So test everything ahead of time, make sure your technology is in place, and make sure that you know how to take care of that situation. So if you do lose your internet connection or something happens and there's a hiccup, make sure that you can come back on live, that you can use a different device, but that you're ready for any of those situations.
Yeah, that preparation is key. Always be prepared, right? The Boy Scout motto. Have a plan B. Here's another good one. Pam is asking, is there a good average length of time for a live event?
Yeah, so Facebook will let you broadcast a live event for up to 4 hours. So you may not have 4 hours of content that's worthy, but a good length could be about 30 to 60 minutes, and this is why. So throughout the 30 to 60 minutes that you might be broadcasting, you may have different viewers all throughout that time. So you want to be able to maximize it to let anyone log on at any time to get some value out of it. So it may be, someone can watch for 10 minutes, they drop off, someone else hops on. 60 minutes, if you have a great topic, if you have something like an interview, that lends itself well to 60-minute broadcasts. And again, lets you reach a broader audience because you're broadcasting for a longer amount of time.
Mm-hmm. So this is interesting. Do you need to create a specific Facebook channel for this purpose alone? So in other words, can you use your existing account, or is it best wisest to start up like a separate account just for Facebook Live?
So you can use your own account. You could use a personal account, or you could use a Facebook page or a group. So for instance, we actually used our Facebook page, and we did create a separate event which promoted the Facebook Live event, but we didn't broadcast through the event. We actually just broadcast through our page. The reason for that is because we asked people to join the event and to join that particular page that we created for the Facebook Live event, but we didn't have a broad audience. So instead of limiting the audience and broadcasting through the Facebook event, we just broadcasted directly through our page. So anyone individually or any page has the capability to create a Facebook Live broadcast.
Okay, so there's some flexibility there from where you do it.
Yeah, and it's good because you can target your audience. Mm-hmm. So if you do want a specific audience, you could create a group and you could just broadcast to that group.
And that's interesting because that ties into another question we have. Colleen from Seattle wants to know, what are some of the best ways to promote a Facebook Live event out to patients?
So you want to think about the fact that if it's a Facebook Live event, it's people who are already going to be on Facebook. So using your Facebook page, using groups, even some paid Facebook advertisements is a great way to advertise your event. So, you would want to do it, or you'd want to make sure that you have a post on your Facebook page. You want to make sure that you maybe have a paid push behind it. And you could also ask any other participants to post it on their page so you can increase your audience base.
Mm-hmm. To really get the word out there. So here's another question. Tom from New York wonders if HCPs will really participate in a live event. Have you seen any traction among actual professionals using Facebook Live?
Well, our Facebook Live event was targeted to patients, and we had a very high engagement rate and a lot of conversations. Mm-hmm. So for them, it was very valuable. HCPs, I think if the topic is interesting enough and they feel like they're going to walk away with some value, then absolutely they'll participate.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's about getting that conversational topic selected.
Right, making sure it's the best content and that it's going to be the best use of their time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Pam has a good question here. What equipment was needed to send the video, a phone, camera, etc.? How, like the actual mechanics of doing the shoot? That's a great question.
So Pam, you can do it as simple as using your iPhone or an iPad. So you can broadcast it directly through your mobile device. However, Facebook has also changed their capabilities that if you do want it to be a little more professional or you want to use special effects or anything like that, you can use a professional camera and you can set up lighting. You can do it, whatever works for you. But you can keep it very simple. Things that you want to think about is, what does it look like visually? What does it sound like? And the third thing is, what is that quality of the lighting that's going to be around you? So you want to think about your backdrop. What does it look like in that environment? And then again, like I said, audio, making sure you have the correct audio equipment, that you're going to be able to be heard, and then making sure that the lighting is good. So people will comment and they'll tell you if they can't see you or they can't hear you, but you want to try to make sure that you take care of that ahead of time. So again, as simple as a phone or as complicated as a whole camera crew.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you do a test run at all? Did you do a pilot shoot ahead of time to see how the lighting and all would work? Or?
We did a couple test ones. We actually created a separate test page, and we broadcasted through that page to our social media control center and made sure that everything was as we wanted it to be.
So step through it ahead of time to see how it was going to look before you hit the live button.
Exactly, yeah.
That's probably...
We did about 2 dry runs before we did the live event.
No, that's great to know. Well, we're coming up on the end of our time here. I don't know if there's any other questions. We appreciate all the great questions and conversation from all of you per the topic today. We have all of your emails, so we'll send the deck around, and I just want to call your attention to some links we have here, both some Cadian thought leadership as well as helpful links back to some of these Facebook Live examples. So we appreciate your time today, everybody, and we are saying farewell for this season's webinar series. I hope you've enjoyed it, and we look to join with you again in 2017. So have a great holiday season, and we hope to catch you in the new year. Thank you very much.